board met tonight in executive session. We're now ready to go on with the public portion of our meeting. We had some public correspondence between January 24th, which was our last meeting, or January 24th rather, and today. Not too much. We had an email, I think 2 emails from Jacob Schwamm in opposition to masking. We also had an email from Pamela Call on the same topic. We have responded to both of those with our policy reiterating the public health state of emergency requirement for masking. So that is the public correspondence. The President's report, as you have all undoubtedly heard, the governor had a press conference today and announced that the end of the mask mandate will come on March 7th, which is 30 days from now. He is extending the public health state of emergency for 30 days from now. They each one lasts 30 days. So we started the first one in January. At the end of his current extension will be March 7th, which is when the mask mandate will presumably go away, but there is no guidance from the Department of Health, the State Department of Health, to sort of put flesh on the bones of COVID protocols. So everybody is waiting for that guidance. The State Board of Ed met last Wednesday and approved a cut score for the new graduation proficiency exam, which goes by the confusing acronym of GPA. So if you hear people speaking about GPA, it's either grade point average or graduation proficiency assessment, depending on who's speaking and what they're talking about. The cut score is going to be 750 out of a potential of 850 points, but neither the State Board of Ed nor many people actually understand what that represents, but at least they have agreed on a cut score for that test, which will be taken by the current juniors, the class of 2023, in March. So more information on that will be forthcoming. The legislature, both houses of the legislature have been holding voting sessions and committee meetings. Both the Senate Ed Committee and the Assembly Ed Committee have met. The optimistic news from our perspective is that they are starting to think about addressing the chronic staffing shortages that are afflicting every single district in the state in specialty areas like math, science, world language, and special ed, but in almost all other areas. Enrollment in the teacher prep programs is down, in some cases as much as 40%. That is the pipeline. This is something that should have been addressed probably 5 years ago, but the legislature is at least starting to look at it right now. So hopefully we will be hearing about some potential solutions forthcoming. And that is the President's report. Superintendent.
Thank you, Betsy. We do have 2 presentations tonight, but I'm going to give a short report, on just an update on the district. As far as the pandemic is concerned, we're pleased to announce that we've seen a decreasing amount of cases in the school. 3 weeks ago, we had 18 cases. 2 weeks ago, we had 12 cases, and last week we only had 3 cases reported, which is terrific numbers. We are starting to see within our region, using the New Jersey, Cali, that those scores are becoming better. We are still at a high risk level, but 2 of the 3 metrics used are at a moderate level. So there's a good indication that we should soon be at the moderate level. Today I sent out an email to the community. There was an update on the travel restriction guidelines. They were changed to match the quarantine and isolation guidelines, which was changed from 10 days to 5 days. So those travel restriction guidelines, if you have to quarantine, if you meet that criteria, it will be a 5-day quarantine. I did speak with the local Department of Health director and threw an idea at him about perhaps us having an alternative to our students quarantining, and he agreed to my suggestion. So parents will have the option when they return, if they have a child who's unvaccinated or not up to date with their vaccines, and they've traveled outside the states or the bordering states for 24 hours or more, they do have the option of, when they return to New Jersey, getting a rapid test. If the rapid test is negative, the child can come to school immediately and then get another rapid test on day 3. And if that's negative, their child can remain in school, so they won't have to quarantine. So we're excited that we're able to keep the kids in school as opposed to having them quarantined. As Betsy mentioned, the mask mandate is set to end on March 7th. Just so everyone's aware, just because there's ending the mandate does not mean masks won't be a part of it, our protocols. We don't know at this time. We're a month away from March 7th. We don't know what the conditions will be like. We're liking the direction they're heading. If it continues that way, that will be a good sign for everyone. But more importantly, we still have to wait for the state guidelines to come out, which the governor announced today they will be released. Those updated guidelines will help districts decide how we can proceed. And we will also be speaking with our local Department of Health before making any final decisions as far as masks are related. And as our numbers continue to decrease locally and within our region, we will be reviewing our building protocols with administrators to see if we can relax some of the health and safety protocols that were put in place when we were at the very high risk level. Other district updates for our special education audit. We did have a presentation at the last meeting. Since that time, I've met with the administrators to go over the audit report, just to get feedback from them at their level. This week, I'll be meeting with the Board of Ed's curriculum committee to discuss it. I know Grace and the CPAC are meeting this week to review the report and develop some questions that we're set to meet with them in March and have the ability to answer some of their questions. And Mr. DeWitt and I will be meeting with the child study team in the coming weeks to review the report with them. Strategic planning, we have completed 5 sessions, and the last session was last week. We created 5 goals for the district. We're still in the phase of editing and finalizing those goals. We do have a meeting on Wednesday where we'll probably look at those goals, come up with some action items and some metrics to make sure that we're achieving those items that we deem necessary to achieve those goals. What I was hoping to avoid this year, but was unfortunately it didn't get to that point, is we are in the year 3 of state monitoring, and when you're in year 3, you have an extensive review process through the county offices. We thought the state was going to delay QSAC because of the pandemic conditions, but that did not occur. So we are going through an extensive state monitoring. We are scheduled to meet with the county offices in March, and they will be collecting a lot of data from us in the meantime. We've traditionally and historically done well under state monitoring. It's just very time-consuming for those who are involved. We are also in the midst of the budget process for the 2022-23 school year. We will be presenting a tentative budget at our next Board of Education meeting on March 14th. Some items that we're currently waiting for as we're constructing that budget are our healthcare rates and state aid numbers, and those are essential numbers that really play a vital role in our construction of the budget. And that's all. Thank you, Betsy.
Okay, and we have some presentations.
Oh, yes, we do. The first one is John Lawler, who's going to give us an update on the high school.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips, and good evening to the Board of Ed trustees, members of the public, both here and joining us via YouTube. Thank you for having me tonight to showcase what's been happening at Glen High School. I'm going to focus on 3 items tonight. One is how our high school is celebrating Black History Month. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about, I know we are just moving past the half-year point, but we are already looking ahead to next year of 22-23. And then lastly, just a little background about our Option 2 program. It is a program that has come up recently both in the special education audit as well as during the strategic planning. And I'm pleased to have 3 of our current students here tonight joining us. We'll tell you a little bit about their experiences in the Option 2 program. Just getting used to live performances again, so bear with me here. All right, so last week we kicked off Black History Month. What I'm sharing up in front of you is just a sampling of some of the activities that are happening at the middle high school. It's really exciting each day. We start the day with our middle school student council sharing a profile from history, highlighting the achievements of African Americans during our morning announcements. And this is a great project that was really kind of facilitated by the middle school student council advisor, Mr. Majewski. The students pick a historical figure of interest. They do a little research and create a short bio that they present each morning on the PA during morning announcements. The next 3 points are, courtesy from our English department. As you can see, you can kind of see a thread here. They're reading various novels by African American authors, and then what they're doing also is, pairing the fiction with various texts and speeches and other documents to tell a story, and really a lot of great things that are happening in the classroom. In our history department, our 7th graders, here's another example, are working on a DBQ, or a document-based question essay. The question that they were presented with was, what was Harriet Tubman's greatest achievement? And what they're presented with are a variety of different primary and secondary sources. What's really interesting to learn about was more than just Tubman's role in the Underground Railroad, but also her role during the Civil War as a battlefield nurse, as a spy for the Union Army, as well as what she did after the Civil War in terms of caring for elderly and orphans and all the great things. And they look at all this evidence, and then they have to make a decision. They have to make a claim based on what is the greatest achievement, and then support all that with the evidence. You can see some other activities that are happening in our history department and our visual and performing arts department. The History of Sports is doing a really exciting activity at the end of the month. They are tuning in with the NFL Hall of Fame to do a program on the contributions of Black athletes to the evolving NFL. So that's really exciting, and a lot of great different things happening, and all aligned with our instructional vision of really kind of encouraging students to think critically, presenting them with a lot of different resources and evidence, and coming up with their conclusions. So a lot of great things happening this month. All right, so last week we met with all students from grades 8 through 11 to talk about next year. We talked about the scheduling process. During this time, we also share information about some of the new courses that are being presented to students. This time of year, we always publish our new version of the program of studies. So there you can see the latest version with the cover art produced by Tyler Ann Citrino. She's one of our seniors in our art program. So we love to give students these opportunities to showcase their talents. And this publication can be viewed on our website. But inside it has all the information about courses, graduation requirements, as Ms. Ginsburg talked about, the assessments that students have to pass, all the different facets and timelines with building their schedule. And we also, what was my favorite part of the meetings is we invite our faculty in that are working on updating their courses. And what they do is, in their interactions day to day with students, they really get a good understanding of what students are interested in, what's engaging them, and they want to constantly update the courses and programs that they're teaching. So we have some new courses, which are great. We have a video game design course, which was put together by Kevin George, who teaches our computer science programs. And again, tapping into this interest that students have, this tremendously growing industry, and kind of looking at it from different angles, from the history of video game, coding behind it, the storytelling, the character development. And what's nice about this is it can be taken by any student in grades 9 to 12. They don't have to be really into coding. They just have to have an interest, and it can help with their graduation requirements. It's great. And even for the student that has, they've gone through the computer science 1 and 2 and the AP program, they can also go back to this course next year as a junior or senior and really dive into the video game industry. So really excited for this one. We expect a lot of interest and probably running a couple of sections of this next year. From our visual arts department, Pam Baker. One was a redesign course, which is Art in Today's World. And that was kind of packaging the graphic design course to kind of broaden it and make a lot more of the career connections to design. So she's really going to be basing it on, again, what student interest is during the group of students that she has in front of her. So students that might have an interest in set design or fashion or developing corporate logos. The course will kind of take on the character of the students that are in the class at that time. And then a new class up top is printmaking. Nice kind of really hands-on experience where students look at different techniques throughout history, from carvings through silkscreen. They're going to produce their own prints. They can produce their own T-shirts. So it gives them a really kind of like a creative outlet for, again, what they're interested in. And statistics has been an existing course here at the high school. Interest has kind of waned over the last couple of years. So we have a new teacher assigned to it. Mr. Fitzpatrick will be teaching this next year, and kind of rebooting it, re-energizing the course, and really making it very kind of practical of what kids see around them in their day-to-day life. From sports analytics, whether they follow the Major League Baseball or the NFL, and how statistics are used for recruiting and through strategy, to how stats are used in social media, to environment and weather, forecasting, and lastly, the topic that we're always talking about the last 2 years, tracking, public health issues like pandemics. So again, great presentation. This is a course typically taken by seniors, but sometimes you get some juniors taking it. But based on what, I was like, I want to take this class next year. This looks really, really exciting, and as like a fourth-year math class. All right, and then also at the meetings last week with the juniors, we presented the Option 2 program. So this takes me to the final part of the presentation. What Option 2 is within the state code, it gives public schools really the ability to provide experiences for students outside the traditional classroom, and in a way that they can also earn credits doing it. So we launched it 2 years ago, right at the beginning of the pandemic, which the idea was, let's get kids out and doing internships and doing all these great things, and then you can't go anywhere. So we had to kind of really look at the program and how do we keep this program moving forward. And the first year we had about 20 students. This year we had about 20 students in it. And the idea is really talking with each individual student what they're interested in. And we found a lot of opportunities here within district. And shortly I'll introduce you to 3 of our students and some of the activities that they're doing both here as well as outside in the community. So there's really 3 components, or 3 main components to Option 2. Students can seek out an internship outside of the school. They could be working in a medical facility. They could be working at a veterinarian's office, doing really anything that they perhaps may have an interest of pursuing after high school, and they earn credit doing it. The second component of Option 2 is what we call a teacher's assistant. That means they work either here in the building or down at Ridgewood Avenue or one of the end schools, pushing into a classroom and taking on like a leadership or mentoring role for the younger students. And then lastly, the college experience is where students can take college credits and essentially get dual credits on campus, as well as counting credits here towards graduation. The idea with the college experience was, again, is giving them opportunities to leave after lunch and go take courses on campus. That kind of, again, over the past 2 years, there was a little wrinkle there. So many of the classes the students were taking on campuses were virtual. But hopefully with the restrictions ending, we can actually get students out there and taking classes over in Montclair, William Patterson, or other local universities. So again, I'm just going to briefly go through each one of these different pathways. What a typical day looks like for a student is they come in the morning, they check down on the rest of their graduation requirements, their English 12 class, their PE class, any other requirements they have to take, and then they leave for lunch, and then in the afternoon they spend working at their internship. It's supervised. We have a dedicated staff member that does site visits. They communicate with people that are supervising the student off-site, and then they have various different assessments they have to do throughout the school year. Again, the teacher's assistants, we've seen really this kind of grew out of this, we see this tremendous desire from our students to be leaders in this school, which is great. We have a peer leadership program that runs once a day, but only 22 students can take it each year, yet we'd have something like 40 to 50 applicants. So we're like, what can we do to provide more of these types of opportunities for students to be these types of peer leaders and peer mentors? And many of them are doing that through Option 2, whether they're working with the middle school band, as Avery will talk about a little bit. We have students working in the CAD lab with the middle school students. And it's a great way to kind of pair the older students, the seniors, with the middle school students and kind of give back some of what they've learned through these programs. And so for a student, it would be just going through their typical school day, and then period 4, instead of an elective or a study hall, they would then push into a middle school class and work as a teacher's assistant alongside the faculty. And then lastly, the college experience. Again, this has existed long before we've done Option 2, but this is giving more opportunities for students, again, to leave our campus to go visit a school. And I have to thank Tim Liddy, our assistant principal, has really helped a lot with developing these relationships with different universities and helping the students through this application process to take these classes at the local schools. And again, what's nice about this, there are certain courses we can't offer here in the high school. Students can take outside, and then also they can earn credits, and at a far less cost while they're still in high school, that they can matriculate when they get to school. All right, so I've talked a lot about it. I'm a big fan of the program. I'm excited to see it continue to grow, but I think really the best thing is to hear from the students that are actually in the Option 2 program and what they've gained from that. So I'm going to ask Alp, Theodora, and Avery, come on up.
Hi guys, I'm Avery, and a part of the Option 2 program that I do is a teaching assistant. So I work with Miss Shireen in the middle school band, period 8. I was fortunate enough to be able to conduct 2 pieces in our winter concert and play with them on the other 2. I will do warm-ups. I'll run through pieces if Miss Shireen needs to go print out some music. Whatever she really needs, I'm there for. I'm a percussionist, and I have been for about 10 years now, so most of the time I sit in the back with the kids in percussion, and I'll help them out with their rhythms and everything. And then on Wednesdays and Thursdays when they have study hall, I go and help them with their homework or any questions they have about high school. And yeah, I really love it. I love the kids. I love working with Miss Shireen. I have a great relationship with her because I've known her since about 3rd grade. So I think if you know a student who wants to do Option 2 teaching assistant, definitely encourage them to get in touch with a teacher that they have a great relationship with so they can work one-on-one with each other based on what they're ready for. So yeah, that's what I do.
Hi, I'm Theodora Walmsley, and I'm a part of Option 2 for the Career Exploration option. So every day after school, I get to leave around 12:40, so after 6th period. I go home, I eat lunch, and I actually spend my afternoons at a dermatology office. So I absolutely love it. I've learned so much. So I mostly do 2 things there. I have the opportunity to directly shadow the dermatologist. His name's Dr. Nosa. He is amazing, and I get to walk in with him for his patients. So I've seen Botox, lots of filler, regular skin consultations. I've seen various skin conditions on babies, old people, children, adults, like everyone. And I have a little notebook I bring, so I just take notes of everything that I've seen. And I also work in the clinical research department, so I get to do a lot of research along with other clinicians at the office. So they have a lot of studies on vitiligo, alopecia, molluscum, and I also get to shadow those patients. So I've learned about properly taking care of medical equipment, cleaning medical equipment, filing patient information, and I'm so grateful for that. And I think that Option 2 really allows students to experience, certain careers that they may potentially want to do in the future. So I think that because I've been at the dermatology office, it's a path that I'd love to do when I'm an adult. So I think that it's a great opportunity for students. I love it.
Hello, my name is Alp Uyghur, and I'm part of the Career Exploration Path. I'm an intern here at the Glen Ridge IT department, actually. And my day pretty much consists of me, period 8. I will go up to the tech office on the 3rd floor, and I'll see if the guys up there, if they need any help, either when fixing Chromebooks or if they have a work order that staff or teachers have filed and I can handle. I'll go down and do that, and it really gives me an opportunity to see how what I've been learning in school really translates to the real world and like jobs that actually like people do, and I'm able to see how these jobs like
All right, thank you so much, guys. We really appreciate you coming in and talking a little bit about the program. I think what's really neat, you can see 3 different students, 3 different, very unique experiences, and it really gives us an opportunity to, as students, get closer and closer to graduation, have checked down on all their requirements. They have that freedom in their senior year to really carve out a really unique experience and to do a lot of exploration before they make big commitments when they go to college and beyond. So really proud of you guys, and it sounds like you've really gotten a lot out of it. So thank you. All right, that's all I have tonight. I'm just going to put in a quick plug, as usual, for our Instagram page. Please follow us. Each morning we push out morning announcements, a lot of great highlights from student activities, from our guidance department. So if you're not already following us, please do. And thank you, and have a great evening.
Thank you, John. One of the things that the legislature talks about all the time with regard to teacher shortages is growing our own. So perhaps the TA program will help us grow a few teachers of our own.
Okay, our last presentation tonight, and it's always a tough act to follow the students, but good luck, Mr. DeWitt, who will be presenting our student safety data report, which is formerly the Violence and Vandalism and HIB report.
Each time I get to follow the students, it definitely is a hard act to follow. So tonight I'm here to present reporting period 1. Each year we have to present out to the state. We post our number of programs that we have, any incidents of harassment, intimidation, bullying, violence, vandalism. There's 2 periods each year. The first period running from July 1st to December 31st. Period 2 is January 1st through June 30th. So tonight I'm going to report. We've provided the information to the state. It's been submitted, and we're going to talk about it. As Mr. Phillips had said, this used to be called EVERS. It was the Electronic Violence and Vandalism Reporting System, and now they've combined that in the HIB system all into one. So there's some terms up here, and we'll get into them on the next slide. The important things to look at are our incident total. So you'll see on the next slide that the number of violence, vandalism, substance, weapons, and any HIB confirmed are one total number that we have that we present out. And then it's broken down. Violence is another, assault, fighting, kidnapping, vandalism, and then any other incidents that we report out. If there's something where students are removed for at least a half a day, if it's a disciplinary removal, and they need to be out of school, we have to also report those out. So for reporting period 1, and I know there we go. Central School had 0 incidents, 0 alleged HIBs, pretty much 0 across the board. That tends to be typical for Central School. The same thing for Forest and Linden. We will have some alleged incidents that occur. We also have some violence incidents that occur, which generally are fighting, things like that, where you'll see at Linden Avenue School. Glen Ridge High School, when we also look at those numbers, these are typical when we see year to year or reporting period to reporting period. The number that stood out for this reporting period was our number of reported violence from that time period. So we had 6 numbers, or 6 incidents that had occurred, and when I reached out to Dr. Donovan to talk about why they had occurred, because that is a higher number than we would normally, and it was definitely something that popped up. He had pointed out that this is the first time that the students are back in school full-time in 2 years. This is the first time that, with the pandemic, all the students have returned to their recess, to their lunch, and a lot of the incidents seem to be occurring there. He had felt that, the students seemed to be forgetting how to behave and having issues with emotional regulation, which, when we think about it, it makes sense. They're back together, and there's definitely been some issues and impulsivity and some things that have occurred. They are addressing it. They're obviously monitoring it that when it comes up, but they're also addressing it with things like zones of regulation, and they're focused on SEL also. So they've been doing programs throughout the building. We had, as listed on the previous slide, there were 2 confirmed HIB incidents that occurred. They were included physical, verbal, or the type of bullying. They were both found to be unintentional events. The nature of the bullying is listed up there. And appropriate actions were taken. So because it's such a small number, we don't present out exactly what the actions were for it, the discipline or the remediation. And it's always important to note in there too, just because something was found to not be a HIB or to be a HIB, there could also be other things that occur, other remediation. We also report out, again, the number of trainings and programs. So I did take a look to see if this was similar for Ridgewood Avenue. I just wanted to kind of know from the previous years as far as our trainings and programs. Pre-pandemic, the numbers were actually very similar. I want to say there was maybe 7 trainings in the first part of the year and about 16 programs in the first part of the year. Just to see, what we're doing at that level, are they similar? These are some of the programs that they're doing across the board, each of the buildings. Central School Week of Respect, which happens at all the buildings. Forest Ave has their Firefly program. Glendon Avenue Paws Up for Respect. Ridgewood Avenue has their Upstanders program. Glenridge High School Hero and Cool Kids. And we do have trainings and workshops that happen across the district for the administrators. The last slide is the staff members that are involved in the investigations. So at each of the buildings, we have an anti-bullying specialist that will investigate, and they are often the administrator in the building, which is listed on the bottom, will also be involved in that investigation with them. And that is my last slide.
Thank you, Jack. So, other presentations?
That's it for tonight.
Okay. Yes, I'm sorry. I was about to say, do board members have questions? And Dave beat me to the punch. Dave?
Thank you. Zones of regulation.
Athena, I'm sorry. Can you use your mic, please?
Jack can answer, but it's basically a program where you're assisting the kids in sort of self-monitoring what their feelings are. So depending on...
Can you hear? If you could repeat the question and the answer, please. It's hard to hear.
I asked what a zone of regulation was, because that was one of the ways they're addressing the number of HIBs at RAS. So either one of you?
It's for the student.
As it relates to our
Sure.
school.
Yeah. It's the students learning to regulate their emotions, understanding their reactions to situations, and how to deal with them.
So on top of that, the students are taught through the homeroom teachers and through the guidance lesson, counselor, different components or different emotions and the proper way of handling their feelings as they're experiencing it. So it's a lot of reflection on them, which is always very important when you're looking for students to self-monitor themselves.
Other questions from the board? Okay, thank you, Dr. DeWitt. Okay, now it is the time for the first public comment period for comments or questions on agenda items. For those of you who are new to the process, the protocol is as follows. You come up to the lectern and sign in. You confirm your Glenridge residency and or any affiliation that you might have. There's a 2-minute time limit, which I will time using the stopwatch feature of my phone. And please, if you have multiple questions or comments, make them all one by one at once so that we can take them in the order that you've given them. So, does anyone have a comment, public comment? Yes.
Hi, Trisha Akinwandi. Question for you, Dr. DeWitt. What's the difference between a training and a program? And are they for the students, or are they for the staff, or is it for both? Can you just give me a little clarity on that? Thank you. Yeah. You want this back?
The trainings are for the staff, and the programs are for the students.
Okay,
That's the short answer.
okay.
Thank you. Other comments? Okay, doesn't appear that there are any. There is a second public comment period at the end of the meeting for questions or comments on agenda items or other items relating to the running of the schools. But for right now, we will continue with our agenda. Board members, it is the first meeting of the month, so it is time for committee and liaison reports. I realize some of the committees perhaps have not had a chance to meet yet, but let's start, Jocelyn, with you.
So I'll report on the Ridgewood Avenue School HSA meeting, which occurred on, January 14th, after the snow day. The meeting this past week was canceled due to the half-day. And Dr. Donovan gave an overview of the MAP testing that was underway. He introduced some of the new staff, the SEL counselors, and the academic support teachers. There was an update on Legally Blonde, which is now fully cast and has more than 140 students at Ridgewood who are going to be involved in the production. It's actually Legally Blonde Junior, and you can look forward to that performance on May 6th and 7th. The Ridgewood Avenue School concert is happening tomorrow night, and there's a big fundraiser occurring on March 4th, Casino Night. Dr. Donovan also did a COVID protocol review, which I think is going to be an ongoing part of any HSA meeting, and there is just sort of a recap of the earnings from the holiday store and spiritware sales and school posts. In addition, the Grace group is having a meeting this week on the 10th between 7 and 8:30, and that is going to be a discussion of the special ed report, that the audit that was just published at the last board meeting, and a discussion and development of questions that Grace is then going to pose to Mr. Phillips and the Board of Education and also the Director of Student Services. And there will be a follow-up meeting on March 16th where Grace members and anyone really is welcome to attend, and there will be the same crew will be there to kind of discuss the results of the report and any other questions that parents want to ask.
Okay, thank you. Heather.
Sure. Linden Home and School met on January 12th. We heard about the second grade promotion fundraising. They did, on the half days, they had lunches, so you could pick up your lunch and bring it home. They're selling Glenridge chairs, the kind people to bring to like soccer games and stuff to set up for the promotion. They did a parents' night out that was so successful. They're planning on doing a second one in the spring. Spring fling this year on May 14th. They could use some extra help with the food and silent auction parts of that. There's planning a social between Forest and Linden, a get to know you for the second graders on June 10th at Carteret Park. School assemblies, they're going to do, sounds like Eyes of the Wild and the Bee Guy again. Those were really well received in the past. Community Service did a winter clothing drive. They're doing their Super Bowl soup drive. They did a book drive, and they're planning to do a cookbook where the proceeds go to the Montclair Food Bank. Discovery, which is always a very successful fundraiser, has been postponed to February. They had appreciation events for teachers during National Education Week, and they're doing their Valentine gift baskets that they do for the crossing guards every year. They're going to finish, they started redoing the murals on the playground. They did phase 1 already and plan to do phase 2 before spring fling. And they were advertising the open positions on the Home and School Board next year. So there's an opening for president or co-presidents as well as the first vice president.
Okay, thank you. Kristen?
I have an update from Gaslamp. They have opened registration for their junior summer camp, which will be Frozen Junior. Everyone's really excited about that. I was disappointed that there's no spot for their liaison, Board of Ed liaison member. Their kids program will wrap up this week with their improv of Fractured Fairy Tales, and they do have a spring program coming for the kids, but those details haven't been fleshed out yet. And their teen program will open their show A Chorus Line on February 24th, and that will run through the 27th. They're performing at Studio Playhouse in Montclair, and they are making plans for a teen summer camp, but we don't have those details yet.
Okay. Thank you. Duval?
Forest Avenue School, Home and School Association did meet last Wednesday. Unfortunately, I could not attend, so I do not have an update at this time.
Okay, thank you. Anthony?
The baseball, high school baseball is running a fundraiser using a Super Bowl pool. It's just to just raise funds for just overall costs for running the in-school baseball league. There is also discussions underway on a push for volleyball in the high school as a sanctioned sport. Now that the cleats are getting put into the floor, there is a compilation of a lot of interest that's going to be, or has been submitted already to Mr. Hill for review and consideration.
Thank you. Tracy?
Yes. Central School, their last meeting was January 12th, which feels like eons ago. They discussed the themes for January, which were our community, all about me, diversity, Martin Luther King, and honoring our differences. And I got to see a lot of pictures of some of the beautiful murals and stuff that they've put up around the school. Dr. Harris talked about the SEL advisors that I guess they're sharing them with Ridgewood, as well as some academic support that they're putting in place. And she discussed the MAP testing, which at that point was upcoming. There was a lot of discussion about the playground and the need for shading, and some other desires for the playground improvements and expansions. They too have some officer openings, president and vice presidents, as well as some committee openings, which they actually were managed to fill at the meeting, so that was good. They too will be participating in the Valentine's Day initiative, and they've had some successful fundraisers, including a Spirit Wear fundraiser and a Panera fundraiser. In addition to that, I was in touch with Ms. Wong, and she had nothing new to report about the Educational Foundation, but hopefully we'll be meeting shortly to discuss any new projects that Mr. Phillips is going to be throwing our way. And lastly, the Personnel and Policy Committee has not met recently, but we just scheduled a meeting for later this month.
Okay, thank you. I am doing double duty tonight. Michael DeLue, who is Chair of Negotiations, is not with us, so I will report that the Negotiations Committee met with our attorney, Jeff Merlino, and Mr. Phillips and Mrs. Murphy to just get an overview of the whole process. We then received a communication from Costas Burkouris and Matt Canisi, who are the negotiations chairs for the GREA. We are in the process of arranging a meeting schedule so that we can move forward with these negotiations. So we are setting the groundwork and expect to get a good start. Our contract with the GREA expires June 30th, so we are making every effort to really get going. And the high school home and school, met on January 21st, which also seems like forever ago, because Mr. Lawler said how nice it was to be back in person, full-time. Some of what the report that he just gave to us here tonight, including, additional new courses, and the start of the scheduling process. He said that he appreciated the cooperation that everybody was giving on COVID protocols. He confessed that he was the mystery voice on the snow day announcement, if any of you were wondering about that. We also had a report on the winter sports, which at that time were doing very well. All the stats are outdated now, of course. We got COVID updates on spectator rules, the availability of streaming, and a reminder about January 28th deadline for signups for spring. We also had a report on the middle school program, and Ms. O'Donnell said that they're making efforts to reacclimate students after the sort of mixed bag of back to school prior to Martin Luther King Day, that they're doing activities like t-shirt making, giving Character ACE awards, which are for acts of kindness, and more kids are going outside at lunch, although the weather has obviously not been terribly cooperative about that, and that they're helping students better utilize their study halls. So that is the high school home and school report. We will be having another high school home and school meeting on the 24th, which will be in the evening, and it will also hopefully be in person. David.
The Finance and Facilities Committee met on January 21st, and I just echo what Dirk said. We had a few things to go over at that time, smaller items, but the budget process is coming up. The budget calendar is posted on the school's website. So if you ever have any questions or want to see how the timing of the budget works, when the votes are, when the presentations are, please go right to the budget calendar on the school's website. The Communications Committee met on January 25th, really just to kick off the year, talk about the website, our new improved website, and discuss any changes to the meeting presentations, to the public board meetings. That's all I have.
Thank you. All right, board members, you have the minutes from the meeting of January 24th, exec session and also public session. Does anyone have any changes to those minutes?
Yes, on page 2 of the regular meeting minutes, under the superintendent's report, third bullet, I'd like to add, Mr. Phillips noted that the special ed report will be made available on our website.
Thank you. Any other changes to the minutes? Okay. David, would you move the minutes as amended by Ms. Murphy?
I move M1 as amended.
Okay, may I have a second?
Second.
Second from Tracy. Since there are no comments on the minutes, Barbara, would you call the roll?
Mr. Bonnet?
Aye.
Mr. Campbell?
Aye.
Ms. Gottlieb?
Aye.
Ms. Graham?
Aye.
Ms. O'Neill?
Aye.
Ms. St. Aubern?
Aye.
Dr. Yaris Ramos?
Aye.
Ms. Ginsburg?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Tracy, would you move the administration items?
Yes, I move A1 and A2.
Okay, may I have a second?
Second.
Second from David. Any discussion on these two items, the second reading of the policy and also the approval of the Uniform Memorandum of Agreement? For those who are unfamiliar with the Uniform Memorandum of Agreement, it is a document that we sign annually. It is a rather lengthy document that defines our relationship with the police department. It is something that every district in New Jersey does every year, and so every year we also have to approve it. We have to approve the updated version. Okay. No comments or questions on administrative items. All right. Barbara, would you call the roll?
Mr. Bonnet,
Aye.
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Ms. Gottlieb,
Abstain.
Ms. Graham,
Aye.
Ms. O'Neill,
Aye.
Ms. St. Auburn,
Aye.
Dr. Yaros Ramos,
Aye.
Ms. Ginsburg.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Tracy, would you move the personnel items?
I move P1 through P8.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second from Anthony. In keeping with our rules and the board members' code of ethics, personnel items are discussed in executive session. Does anyone have any objections to voting now on the personnel items? Okay, seeing no objections, Barbara, would you call the roll?
Mr. Bonnet,
Aye.
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Ms. Gottlieb,
Aye.
Ms. Graham,
Aye.
Ms. O'Neill,
Abstain.
Ms. St. Auburn,
Aye.
Dr. Yaros Ramos, Ms. Ginsburg.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, before we move on the business items, I'd like to draw your attention to item B5, which is a donation, a generous donation from the Glen Ridge Educational Foundation in the amount of $2,175. The monetary donation for the virtual high school for the 21-22 school year. For those of you who don't know the virtual high school, it allows our students access to courses that we do not teach here in person in the high school, and it's been invaluable to our students ever since the foundation first started providing us with the funds for it. So many thanks to Fran Wong and the members of the foundation board for this very generous gift to the high school and to our students. And Tracy, I know you'll convey that to Fran Wong.
Absolutely.
And now, David, would you move the business items?
I move B1 through B7.
Okay, may I have a second?
I'll second them.
Second from, was it Kristen? Oh, Duval, sorry. Okay, any discussion on the business items? Okay, Barbara, would you call the roll?
Mr. Bonnet,
Aye.
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Ms. Gottlieb,
Aye.
Ms. Graham,
Aye.
Ms. O'Neill,
Aye.
Ms. St. Auburn,
Aye.
Dr. Yaros Ramos, Ms. Ginsburg.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, we've reached the second public comment period for comments or questions on agenda items or other items pertaining to the schools. Are there any questions or comments? No, must be too cold and chilly, too cold and clammy outside. Okay, last chance. Any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Moved by David, may I have a second? Second from Kristen. Thank you all.